Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 72, your Fiesta flight to Mexico and the ancient pyramids, now departing at Gate 19.
Shrouded in a daft disguise,
they pretend to terrorize. Grin-grinning ghosts come out to socialize.
Some happy songs, some snappy dances, costumes and sets, spoofs and romances, with laughs and tears and footlights all aglow. The sparks ignite. Ha! A brand new show.
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your passport to the Disney parks and experiences. I am your host, Lou Mangello, and this is show number 791. And this and every week, I want to enhance your enjoyment and appreciation of the Disney parks and experiences and bring you a little bit of Disney magic wherever you are. Here in the podcast, my weekly live video every Wednesday, blog, in-person events, weekly newsletter, and more. Please join the community and find everything at WDWRadio.com. And as we prepare for D23, the ultimate Disney fan event this year, we share our sometimes surprising predictions and wish lists for what we expect and hope we're going to learn about what is ahead for the Disney parks and resorts, as well as Disney Studios and Disney Plus. We're going to explore why Disney needs to exceed expectations this year and deliver unprecedented surprises at D23, and what the underlying reasons are that make this a pivotal moment and how these announcements could transform the Disney landscape. Of course, I'd love for you to weigh in and tell me what's the one announcement you hope to hear at this year's D23 event by either calling the voicemail or sharing your thoughts in the clubhouse. Then stay tuned for our Disney Trivia Question of the Week, where you can enter for a chance to win a Disney Prize package, and more updates at the end of the show. Please connect and reach out to me anytime on social. I am at Lou Mangello on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you like what you hear, and I hope that you do, please share the show and tell a friend. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. Since the very first D23 Expo in 2007, we have never known what to expect. Like, for that event, which really was the first of its kind, there were a lot of unknowns, from just what the event was going to be, who was going to be there, what we would see and what we would learn, excuse me, and year over year, that's part of what makes this event so exciting. It's what or who we can't wait to see, and I think more importantly, the surprises that Disney has in store. And when I say Disney, I don't just mean the parks and resorts, but I think, movies, merchandise, music, Marvel, streaming, Star Wars, and much, much more. The Expo, again, is going to be bigger and hopefully better than ever. And I've been exhibiting on the booth, on the show floor, since the very first Expo, where I joined forces with not just my next-door neighbor on the floor, but longtime partner and favorite travel agency, Mousefan Travel. And together, we've not only just tried to make and bring a little bit of magic on our own, but be right there, front and center, to take in whatever may be in store. And this year will be no different. We will be back with our own set of surprises to share. Wait until you see our balloon sculpture and photo opportunity this year. Prizes to give away in a fun, new way. But it's also about just being there to share in the excitement with tens of thousands of other Disney fans as the announcements are made. But what is it, right? What are the announcements that we are expecting? That's the question. We might not know just yet, but come August 9th through the 11th, our questions are going to be answered, and hopefully some of our wishes and dreams will come true. And that is what this week's show is all about. What do we wish for at this year's event? What's on our Disney Parks wish list? Or what do we expect or hope is going to be announced? And I'm sure that you, listening at home, treadmill, car, wherever you may be, do, and so do I. But I wanted to bring some friends and fellow Disney fans on to share their ideas. And in a few weeks, we're going to see just how right or wrong we are. So back again, not just on the show floor, but on the show this week, and my longtime 17, 18-year, whatever it is, partner in our not just again on the show, but my partner on the Emporium show floor is Becky Mankin from Mouse Fan Travel.
I can just hear you saying, remember when we were there on the first show when you said, let's tear down the wall. Let's go ahead, just tear down the wall between the two booths and look where we are now. 17 years later? Wow. That's a lot of lube.
Yeah, I did 2007 first Expo, man. That in some respects it seems like it was yesterday, and in other respects it seems like it was a lifetime ago. And first time on the show, but longtime friends, fellow Disney podcasters, and members of the WDW Radio and Nation family, Matthew and Crystal Woolley from Married to a Disney Addict podcast. Guys, it is so good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. We're so excited.
Hi, Lou. Hi, Becky. This is so exciting to talk Disney dreams with you.
A bit of starstruck going on. We are so thankful for being on the pod with you, Lou, and Becky too.
Listen, I understand when you see Becky, it's like being in the presence of Barbara Streisand.
Oh my gosh! You want me to start singing Memories now for the fun of it? Is that where we're going?
Please, for the love of God, don't. But Woolies, just a couple of quick questions, right? Longtime Disney fans, relatively longtime Disney podcasters too. Have you ever actually been to Expo before? I know it's not Expo anymore, but I'm going to call it Expo just for ease of it's the D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan event, as opposed to be an Expo. Would have you ever gone out to Anaheim for the event?
Sadly, no.
We were actually planning to go for the very first time to Disneyland and the Expo this year, but we fell victim to that little Running Man that a lot of other people did, and we were not lucky enough to get tickets. So we will live vicariously through all the live streams of the people that will be there, like we normally do.
I know the Running Man, and I too was victim to the Running Man, who did not, like me, run fast enough to get his ticket. But this is it, man. This is, for us Disney fans, this is our Comic-Con, our Oscars, our Super Bowl, World Cup, and Royal Wedding all in one. So whether you're there to watch it live and in person or watch it via streaming on Disney Plus, I know Disney Legends and some other presentations and panels are going to be streamed, or follow along on social. Stay tuned. I'll have more to share about our WDW Radio coverage of the event. We all have, I think, our own wish list. What we want, hope, dream, pray, think is, or expect is going to be announced. And I want to, before we get into this, our conversation, I want to preface it by saying a few weeks ago, I asked this question over in the Clubhouse, which is the WDW Radio community on Facebook. And it was interesting. I went back a few days ago and just again this morning to take a look at sort of what the pulse, the temperature was of the folks who were watching in there, and take away some of the overall impressions and recurring themes. And I have a feeling that a lot of what they said, and I won't sort of spoil, I'll sort of discuss it as we go through, but I think there were some recurring themes that I have a feeling are on our lists as well. Not even necessarily in terms of specific items in terms of attractions and announcements, but just wanting specifics, period, right? Not just promises, not just speculations, but just give us the concrete plans. Let us know. There was a lot of blue sky discussion earlier, but now we want to sort of see and hear exactly what it is that you have been working on, and just to sort of help set the stage, or in our case, to set the table a little bit. I think there are, and deservedly so, very, very high expectations for announcements that have to be transformative about the future expansion. We're talking about, $60 billion or so investment plan for the parks and resorts over the next number of years. And I think there has been some preliminary indicators in terms of what to expect, right? So from things like, just from a personnel perspective, right? Bruce Vaughan, longtime Imagineer, is back at Walt Disney Imagineering. I think there's a reinvigorating of creative blood there. Even in some of the things that have been shared by Disney and teased, right? We saw that the title for this year is Horizons, a Disney Experience Showcase, which I think is very smartly, as we've seen in a lot, is not just inspired by the classic Epcot attraction. It may or may not be directly connected to the announcements. I'll be very curious to hear your speculation. The artwork features Mickey apparently conducting his way in front of the parks, wondering what that may or may not represent. And so have you all seen the artwork?
We have.
So it's interesting because we as Disney fans, right, so anxious. There's so much fun in trying to analyze it. And look, I will admit, I was zooming in, I'm trying to find clues and Easter eggs. We overanalyze the artwork, which potentially leads to disappointment if our interpretations are not reflected in the announcements. And then you're well, is this going to be a musical celebration because I want stuff from the parks? So it's so unclear as to how much weight the artwork holds regarding the announcement, although we do know there is going to be a showcase of a live music celebration of Disney. So just, before we even sort of dig a little deeper into the specific thoughts, give me your thoughts from the 30,000-foot view in terms of where we have come before, what we are starting to see as this road leads up to Expo, the Ultimate Disney Fan event, and things like the concept art and the reveal of the schedule. So Woolies and then Becky.
So, I mean, you took the number one thing off of, I think, our list and a lot of people's lists when you said the big thing is we want concrete information. We want to know what's coming. It's time for Disney to say, hey, you're going to see Avatar and I don't want to jump ahead, but you're going to see this here at this date. You're going to see this here at this date. And they've been teasing us long enough with the Blue Sky. We love Blue Sky, right? That's why we have podcasts where we can talk about it and dream up these things and play armchair Imagineer. But I just think us as Disney fans, we're ready to know what's coming. And there's some competition down the street that they have some concrete information. We know what's coming, and now it's our turn. And I feel like I need to know what I'm going to get to enjoy in the next couple of years. And I know, Crystal, you were picking apart the artwork like Lou was talking about.
I saw the 2 cruise ships. So in my mind, we're getting information about the cruise lines. I saw the 6 castles. So clearly all of the parks are being included across seas and here in the US. I saw the Tree of Life, so we're getting information about the Tree of Life. Then one thing that I noticed off to the side was the Earful Tower, and I just jumped at that, and I was like, hopefully it'll be brought back or maybe more centralized. But then the thing I noticed is Epcot, Spaceship Earth, right in the center, bigger than all the others. And I know they keep telling us that they're almost done with Epcot, but is there more coming? That's where I'm picking apart every little detail of that artwork.
Yeah, like everybody else, I have that please, please, please no Blue Sky this year, right along what you guys had said, because I want real concept art. I want real ideas that I can get excited about, not things that someone says might be there or could possibly happen. While it was fun to hear those ideas and the things in the background, I found that after that last session, last time we were there, and we got all those great Blue Sky ideas, but we really didn't see shovels in the ground after it. It kind of was a letdown for me. So I'm really hoping that they take a different tactic this time, give us solid information, things to get excited about, dates that we can look for and go, hey, in 2026, this is coming, and we can look forward to that. I did, as I was looking at the artwork, though, I kind of saw it I know you can look at the Easter eggs and get really excited about the possibilities, but what I saw was a representation of every single park, a representation of the cruise line. The only thing I didn't see in there was Aulani. So other than that, I saw all the parks, I saw the cruise lines, and then I was wondering about Mickey conducting. And yes, like everybody else, at first you hear Horizons, you go, wait a minute, on the horizon. Okay, let's take it more literally than what could be coming. But I also read in the description that it's a live musical celebration of Disney storytelling. So that was kind of confusing for a minute because I started thinking, is this a concert with intermissions of announcements? Or are they going to do an announcement and then have a musical backup of it? So looking at the art, I'm seeing it as Mickey conducting whatever this musical celebration is going to be, in a celebration of all of the parks that are representative, and then, of course, the cruise line as well.
Yeah, I've said for a while leading up to this, and you know, I think it bears mentioning, right? I don't think, and I've always felt this way because I think this is just the way the industry works, and certainly Disney. You know, there's been a lot of talk about the place down the street, and there's a lot of shovels and dirt, and things are going up. And like, well, Disney has to sort of respond and retaliate to, and that's not the way it works, right? Disney's always had this 10-year plan, you know, that they have in front of them that they have been working on. I think in past expos, there has been a lack of concrete plans. And I tried to sort of look back with 2020 hindsight vision and say, all right, look, 2022, there was a lot that we were Disney was coming back from, right? Coming back from COVID, coming back from a CEO that maybe did not necessarily align with the hopes and dreams and visions of Disney fans. And really, look, let's be honest, it's trying to right the ship, right? There was a lot of writing in the ship. So I understood this idea of putting out these blue sky ideas, which I also think was strategic. I think that was Disney, instead of saying, these are the things we're building, we're going full steam ahead and then waiting for the internet to respond. I think it was, let's give them a little sense of what we're working on. Let's take a pulse. Let's take a pulse and temperature of, look, because they are paying attention, right? They listen, they watch, they read. Let's see how people respond to some of the blue sky things that we're talking about. See if this is something that will be guest satisfiers before we give the green light. I thought that meant that at Destination D, we would start to get more concrete. That didn't happen, right? I think they were saving things for this expo, and that's my hope. And that's why I've said, they need to give us things that are going to make our jaws drop on the floor. Not things that are confirmation of blue sky that's been talked about, but things we have no idea it's coming. Becca, we've been in the audience at the Parks and Resorts presentations every time, and there have been moments where we're looking at each other, shaking each other, usually you're punching me in the shoulder, oh my God, I can't believe they announced that. Look, and past expos, I started to go back and look and think 2015, 2017, there were significant concrete announcements that I think set a very high standard for what we as fans expect from Expo. Recent presentations, post 2019, have generally, been perceived as maybe lacking some substantial content and lacking some substantial, again, those jaw-dropping things. And I think the importance of making solid announcements and then optionally discussing some of the blue sky concepts is going to be really important. Look, they've got specifically about World, $17 billion investment coming to Walt Disney World, a few billion more to Disneyland, and I think there will be announcements for the international parks, etc. But I think, coming full circle for what I said at the beginning, there needs to be a wonderfully emotional reaction in that room and online to these announcements, right? We talked about the feeling of a Super Bowl. That's what it needs to be. There needs to be that, oh my God, jaw dropping, tears in my eyes. I can't wait for this energy. It needs to be an emotional expo. like they need to make some people fall back in love again, right? Like a Kardashian marriage. Maybe sometimes you need to be reminded why you fell in love in the first place. Like, spice it up, have something to look forward. I've never actually seen the Kardashians. I couldn't think of anything else. But I think there is a sense of having to, for some fans, restore and retain some of that fan trust and that fan excitement and that love that's going to carry us during the amount of time it's going to take to put a shovel in the dirt and start to build these new concepts that we're going to be talking about.
The number one thing I had on my list of what we wanted to see was, I want to see something that surprises me and makes the oxygen go out of the room. Mm-hmm. Because that feeling that we've had that you just described, where we knew something was coming about something, but we didn't see that coming. And how excited am I to hear those words and to all of a sudden realize, oh, there's not one ship, there are 3 ships. And just that feeling of excitement, that's what I'm hoping for. And I'm crossing my fingers that we have those moments again.
Yeah, I'm hoping that while some of the things that we talk about on our lists, which you have not discussed ahead of time, come to pass, I also hope that we're very wrong and there's stuff that is not on our list, that we have no idea what it is going to be. So I thought we would sort of take it park by park, land by land. Let's sort of go magic. Let's go Walt Disney World first, where I think a lot of our hearts and attention is focused to. We'll go Walt Disney World land by land, and then we'll hit some of the other parks, etc. Woolies, you are my guests, and it still follows in the ladies first, which is good. Let's just sort of take Magic Kingdom and give me your thoughts about what you expect, what you hope, what you dream will be announced at D23.
Well, I hope we get an actual date for the Beyond Thunder Mountain. It's needed. It's time. We know that something's coming back there. We need to know what is coming. I'm hopeful for a Villain's Land. I think I agree, a lot of fans agree that that's a big draw.
It's underrepresented in the parks a lot. Yeah.
I would like to see an overhaul in Tomorrowland. However, don't touch the beloved.
Don't touch my Carousel of Progress.
So what's the right? So what is untouchable? What is untouchable in Tomorrowland?
For me, it's Carousel of Progress. Yeah. I know for Matt,
it's People Mover.
It's People Mover.
Those are the two that you can't go near.
So you can't, quote unquote, update the carousel?
You could update it.
The end you could. Like, I'm totally fine with updating the end scene because that's always supposed to represent, modern or future, near future. But don't touch the rest of it because that is a classic. It's the song I sing to Lincoln and Landry to put them to sleep at night. So you can't mess with that one. But there's a lot of other spaces in Tomorrowland, right? Stitch's Great Escape has just been sitting there empty forever. It's not so much that you need to get rid of things that are already there and redo it, but you have space that you can bring something new. It can just be an overhaul to the area. They've been teasing it here and there. So I feel like that might be a big, I didn't expect them to actually do that now.
An improvement to Frontierland. I know that there's been talk in that area. I don't have any specific dreams for that area, but uniting the worlds that are in development there.
Oh, with the
Tiana's and then Beyond, making it more fluid.
Interesting. Ms. Mankin?
Well, I'm with you on, after all the blue sky on Beyond Big Thunder, I would love to finally hear what they're actually going to do in that arena. Most likely, I think that they're going to lean into Encanto, which that keeps coming up over and over. However, the Villains would be a nice piece. But the one thing I want more than anything is a nighttime parade back. I would really, really, really like and hope and crossing my fingers that we're going to hear about a nighttime parade and maybe some other type of nighttime entertainment as well. Now that we're seeing the drone technology show its face in Disney Springs, maybe there's going to be an enhancement to a nighttime spectacular of some sort. But I'm really pinning my hopes on that nighttime parade because I think it's much overdue. But other than that, from a Magic Kingdom perspective, I'm very focused on the Beyond Big Thunder and what it's actually going to be rather than what they speculated, the 4 things it might be. Where does the arrow actually hit on the bullseye and find out what it's going to be?
Yeah, I think we're all in alignment in terms of specifically those 2 areas. 1, because it's what has been touched on. 2, Tomorrowland, I think for years has sort of felt like it's just on the precipice of getting something, and then for one reason or another, it gets pulled back. And if you look at Tomorrowland, again, from sort of a 30,000-foot view, then I still call it the Noodle Stations. Tomorrowland Terrace, for all intents and purposes, is closed for the most part. Stitch's Great Escape has sat empty for a number of years. We haven't seen updates to some other things. And look, Tomorrowland is one of the few lands other than Frontierland where I think that there is a possibility of actual expansion, which, again, we as Disney fans don't like something to go away. So I agree about Stitch's Great Escape. I'd love to see something Big Hero 6 themed in there. I mean, as long as we're putting out wish lists. I think this is going to come up multiple times in multiple locations. This would not be the worst place for some sort of Inside Out 2 maybe themed attraction. If you're looking to put something somewhere and don't know where else to put it, it's actually a huge space. The 2 theaters in Stitch's Great Escape are a huge space, but there's also some areas in between Carousel of Progress and Buzz Lightyear. Remember, that used to be the Galaxy Palace Theater. There used to be a theater that sort of went back. There's cast member parking and staging back there, but you could sort of take some of that space and potentially do something with it, and knock out into that area as well. I, too, am curious about the Big Thunder Mountain expansion. Again, I think the reason why, Becky, it might be Coco and it might be Encanto and it might be this, is to say, all right, we want to hear what you like. Villains comes up over and over and over again. And I wonder if that's something that could ever come to pass. My vision for it would be, as you go beyond Big Thunder, you cross into this threshold, which is a portal that takes you into this world that's sort of run by the villains and Hades. I mean, I think there's great opportunity in there while still making it a place that is accessible to everyone, like families with young kids, so it's not scary, but something leaning into almost what they do at some of the nighttime parties. And look, villains are a huge, huge satisfier. So, and maybe there's maybe there's a retheming of Tomorrowland. Tomorrowland might be getting like a broad stroke of the brush and not just be individual attractions, because what is the story of Tomorrowland has gotten muddled and lost over what it was, this sort of futuristic spaceport over the years.
Just don't bring back an alien that's going to lick the back of my neck, and I'm okay. That is the only thing. Please take whatever mechanism was in there away. Whatever you put in, I'm good with.
Alien over the burping Stitch any day of the week.
I can still hear the breathing.
Yes.
I was just going to say, going back to Beyond Thunder Mountain, how you were mentioning some of the properties that they tease, like Encanto or something like that. The thing about Magic Kingdom to me is they can't do a land based on a property, right? It can't just be, this is Encanto, because that's not what Magic Kingdom really does. It has to be a bigger theme. And I feel like that's why something like Villains could fit, because you could bring so many different properties and you have this overarching theme that, again, is underrepresented in the parks really anywhere. It's not just like here, it's everywhere. No park really has that type of thing. It would be a big fan service, I think, if they were able to do that.
I agree. I agree with everything you said. So, all right, if there's nothing else in Magic Kingdom, let's take the monorail over to Epcot, and I will mix things up a little bit and let Becky go first. She's now asking Jeeves, what is coming to Epcot?
Look, Mom, here's my hands. See? No, they've done so much in Epcot already. I don't know how much they could move forward with it, for the exception of, we were really excited last time about something with Figment. We really thought something was going to be much more substantial than what we got. Obviously, we had the right balloon at the right time for when they wanted to talk about Figment. However, I was thinking it was going to be something much more substantial. And maybe this is when we get that. Maybe now is that time, because the Figment attraction right now is, it needs some work. It definitely needs an overhaul. So I think if we're not going to get a new country right now, that might be the place that I would like to see some improvement.
I have to completely agree with Becky. Figment needs a complete overhaul. I don't want to ever see him leave the park. He is my most favorite character. I would love to see a return of Dreamfinder, whether it's in the original form or maybe even a comic book pull into the parks. But poor Figment, he's loved by many, and his ride is so subpar.
I'll refrain from speaking about Figment.
Wait, you don't not like Figment, Matt?
Matt has never ridden the original attraction.
I'm a newer Disney fan.
Well,
right?
that's not your fault. That's probably some bad parenting somewhere up the chain. So
some therapy is in store for this one, but the one thing too with Figment is it still is such a beloved character, and new generations are embracing Figment because the little plushy Figments fly off the shelves, regardless if the attraction is kind of ho hum right now. That little purple dragon is loved, and so I think that they have to move forward with it because it means too much revenue.
Well, I think the writing's been on the wall for years too. Look, I've been saying every expo, every year, every destination deal, I'm like, this is it. This is the year. And I'm like going all in on, eventually I'm going to be right. Eventually, because I think the death knell sounded for it years ago, right? When you start to see things like the post-show area not being updated, things starting to go away. I mean, it's this cavernous, empty, sad space now, which does not happen unless it's, okay, we cannot put any revenue towards this because something bigger is coming. We know something big is coming down the pike. I think that they have been seeding that also for years with Figment. Again, this leaning into a sense of nostalgia, I think over the past 5-7 years, especially going back to the Orange Bird, really leaning into it with Figment, making Figment almost the unofficial, again, icon and mascot of the park. He is certainly for the festival. So you're right. I don't think Figment is going anywhere, which is why while it might make sense for an inside out attraction to go here, the emotional roller coaster, again, if I say it enough times, it's going to happen. We cannot lose Figment at the expense of Inside Out. So what does that mean? I think, Crystal, you're right. I think if they said, just picture this in your mind's eye. You're in the Honda Center, assuming you could get tickets. You're in the Honda Center, and they tell you that Dreamfinder is going to return. You want to instantly, just capture the hearts of every nostalgic Disney fan. That's it. I think you're also right, Crystal. I think the Dreamfinder we get is probably closer to the comic book version than it is to the little sort of rounder, jollier, heavily bearded guy from 1983. But I do think that attraction, that pavilion, as a whole, is going to be sort of the star. It's going to be the centerpiece, the center point, specifically for Epcot and possibly even for a lot of these announcements, because it is the one that is so beloved from an attraction point of view, from a character point of view, even from a park point of view. I don't think they're done in Epcot. I don't think that they're done at Epcot. I think there is a next phase of this Epcot transformation, and I put transformation with an asterisk because the transformation that we got was not the transformation we were promised, right? There's a lot of things that we did not get, right? The Play Pavilion for Wonders of Life did not come to pass. The Mary Poppins ride, the land updates, the Festival Center, Wondrous China, there's a lot of things that didn't happen, which means to me they are off the shelves. They are closer. They are not blue sky. I think this plane is in flight. I think we are going to see finally the reimagining of Spaceship Earth that was originally postponed back in 2020. I think it is in need of not just some mechanical updates, but I think storyline and technology updates. Do you remember when it was? You remember when it was going to be Project Gemini, like way back? So, like the going back to the early 2000s, the Spaceship Earth update is now 24 years coming. Like, this is it. We've been talking about it long enough, because remember, they were going to build like a structure around the base of Spaceship Earth. They were going to update the narrative and the technology, making it a lot more interactive, make it a lot more relevant. There was going to be a shifting of the theme. I think that is going to come. I think that's what they had planned in 2020, and maybe we're going to have there's sometimes benefits from what came out of COVID. I think having more time to sit back and reflect on what this iconic attraction should be transformed into may finally come to pass. And we're going to get some additional new technologies, more contemporary themed, which means that there's probably going to be a prolonged closure, which we don't, the walls just came down. I think don't put those walls away, everybody. We're going to need this again in a few minutes. Not just for Spaceship Earth, but I think, is this the year? Is this the year that we finally get the decades-long rumor of, and I'm going to use air quotes, an expansion of World Showcase? There are 2 pads where you could put a single pavilion, or does it eventually become something that was proposed and rumored years ago, which is where World Showplace is, blowing that area out, expanding the lagoon and building like a second lagoon with like a second promenade and a hotel that is inside the walls and the gates of Epcot. Let it, I would love to, foaming at the mouth, thinking about it, right? Being able to add so many countries that would just have so much potential for that. So I think the very short way of saying my very long thing is, I think, and I'm hopeful, my dream, my wish, my hope is that this next phase of the Epcot overhaul is even bigger and better and grander than anybody has sort of thought in the past.
I was under the impression that we wouldn't hear anything about Epcot except for maybe the Imagination Pavilion. My dream was a new country, and then Lou just blew my mind, because that would be one of those announcements that if they came out and said something like that, which if they're spending that much money, they could totally do it, right? They have the funds to do it. That would take the breath out of everyone in that room, because I honestly wasn't even thinking about that.
Is this why Epcot is so centralized on?
You're going back.
I'm going back to the
artwork.
It's all, for me, it's about the artwork. Every artwork has given us some information in the past, and Epcot's so centralized.
I would not be surprised if some of the things I talked about didn't happen, and even on a smaller scale. I would very much not be surprised if the land did not get an update. Both the Soarin' film, we know it has its issue, a refresh of the atrium and a refresh of the Living with the Land pavilion. Remember, we were supposed to get a new Wondrous China film? There was rumors of something coming to Japan. I think Restaurant Marrakesh is not going to be a pass holder lounge forever. Why not make that an Aladdin-themed character meal?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a nice idea. Now, I keep going back to your World Showplace thing, because obviously that is their only in-park venue that can handle conventions. And you know how much money that brings in to Disney. You're doing all the conventions. So I'm not too sure that they would do that without replacing it, which
if you blow out the lagoon,
location,
right, and you have a hotel there.
Yeah. So it would be incredibly cool to have another hotel that close in park. That would be amazing. But I don't know if they'd actually do that without a replacement to bring conventions into an in-park location for.
Well, talk about leaving money on the table for revenue. Remember the multi-level festival center?
Yes. Now, if we had gotten that, then I could see them doing World Showplace, because that would have been the perfect replacement for something like that. So
as soon as Becky
I'm very intrigued by this.
We're like, how quickly can we rent this out for an event?
Exactly. I come at everything going, well, if they do that, then I won't have event space. And, when the Communicore place came up, everyone is like, it's empty. It's like, no, it's a blank slate for anybody to come in and create their events, because we know how much it costs to remove things from a space to have an event. So while I'm intrigued and my brain is kind of swirling around that idea that you just, blew up my brain about, I was not even thinking about Spaceship Earth, but yeah, you're right there. That's way overdue. So I was with you, with Matthew. I wasn't even thinking about Epcot that much, and now I am. Yeah.
And just a quick aside for Communicore Hall, I think we will have a better understanding of what its use is really going to be soon. Look, when the festival, when Food and Wine Festival starts August 29th, that is when Communicore Hall is going to sort of come into what it is there for, right? What we see now is this space that's being utilized. And look, I've worked there and I've had meetings there and I've get out of the heat there, but let's see, it's purpose built for festivals. Let's see what happens at the end of August when Food and Wine goes, and that is when I'll make my final judgment on the overall Communicore Hall. So, all right, if there's nothing else from Epcot Center, which it shall always be for me, we could take the Skyliner over to Disney's Hollywood Studios. And Woolies, I will let you go first.
Okay, so I'm just going to go right off the bat with the big one because I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I love Galaxy's Edge. But before everybody yells at me, I'm going to take out the Muppets. But I'm not removing the Muppets from the park. I'm moving the Muppets. I'm taking the Muppets and I'm moving them over to the big bay, the launch bay area. Mm-hmm. So they get that whole area. You can still have the movie. You could probably build a couple things back there. I feel like
scared me there for a minute.
Better with the Disney Junior section that's there, which I know you're going to want to talk about in a second. But I want to see Galaxy's Edge expand, take over that section where Muppets is now to kind of connect where Star Tours is and Galaxy's Edge. I know there are different time periods in the story and things like that, so they could do something cool in the middle there. But I feel like Galaxy's Edge needs another attraction. I feel like it needs a nice sit-down eatery. And I love the food that's in there, but a sit-down option would be cool for Galaxy's Edge. I feel like they could really expand that area to make it more cohesive than here's Star Tours, like just kind of by itself, and just really blow up Star Wars in the parks because they can't do Marvel and Walt Disney World. So let's do Star Wars. And I would love things like the Jedi Training Academy to come back and just a big expansion to Galaxy's Edge. That would be my big wish. I don't think it'll happen right now, but that'd be my wish.
Star Wars has its own set of issues that we'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to then take his Muppets and put it over by, what is that hall called? The launch pad. We'll put it over there. And maybe turn it Muppet Babies. Make that
Include Muppet Babies.
Include Muppet Babies. There's a Disney Plus need over there. I mean, a Disney Junior need over there. I want it to kind of include Bluey. I am a big Bluey fan with my littles. And
Bluey's cute.
It's so cute. And I think there's there's a good revenue there. If they could, get the licensing and everything to work, I'd go watch a Bluey show. I'd go meet Bluey. I'm very jealous of anyone who is going to do a meet and greet with Bluey.
At the expo. Well, this is you coming out, as the mom, right?
Right. This is me as the mom.
Right. Yeah. We have a 1.5-year-old. We have, a 7-year-old who's starting to grow out of that. And while they love Disney, there's only one Disney Junior thing really in Disney World for Landry to enjoy, and that's the little show there. And he liked it when we went the one time, but there's not much else there. But that's a pretty big open courtyard where they could include some stuff. And while I don't hope it's just Muppet Babies, that was not mine. I said keep the Muppets the way they are.
I turned it Muppet Babies.
If you include, it's a big enough area, I think, where you could transition and have a little bit of that Muppet Baby, closer to the Disney Junior attraction. I think we just better utilize the space, and it would allow Star Wars to expand.
Becky just sent me a text saying, "Looks like I'm never going to Animation Courtyard ever again."
Oh my
All
gosh!
those children and Muppet babies. Wow. All right. Well, then listen.
I love Muppet Babies.
Well, I think the bigger
We're gonna be fighting
would be
about
if
this
they
for a while.
actually returned it to animation, like the studios.
Yes.
Like if they could bring it back to being a working studio, and they could bring it back to the back, I think that would be like every Disney fan's dream. I don't think that will ever happen. So I think these are actually probably more realistic. So they would have to utilize that space a little bit better.
Becky?
Well, I'm kind of. Do not touch my Muppets. That's all I gotta say. Move it, fine. I'm okay with Muppet Babies, but don't. That IP is worth so much. I wish that they would do more with it. I really do. But if you're looking at a Galaxy's Edge, my little heart would love to see them actually do something and repurpose the Galactic Star Cruiser. I would love for them to turn that into a moderate hotel that is Star Wars themed.
Let's save Star Cruiser. I have thoughts on Star Cruiser. Let's save that till we talk about resorts specifically. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's tied to park for me, but okay, we'll go back to that one. The other thing I'm kind of worried about in a way is, but then again, not. There's always been a lot of speculation swirling around Tower of Terror too. While it is incredibly popular, it's more popular where it fits in Disneyland now that it's Guardians of the Galaxy. But I would love for it to stay Tower of Terror, but I know that there's been a lot of speculation that might change. So I don't have a horse in this race for one or the other, but I don't know if that's going to be on the table or not. What do you think?
Okay. So when it comes to Disney's Hollywood Studios, I think this is the park that, as we've been leading up to this year's event, even coming off of the 2022 Expo, it has been the park that has the least, it has not really been mentioned really much at all. Like, we know we're getting Little Mermaid, we're going to like little things here and there. So there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of potential updates. So to quote one Dame Judi Dench, let's have some fun, shall we? I'm not sure that any of these things would actually happen, but you mentioned Muppets, right? And Matt, you had an interesting idea of being able to take that Muppet Courtyard area, expand Galaxy's Edge out to sort of connect those two worlds. I'll touch back on Galaxy's Edge in a second. If you did that, why not take Muppets and don't take them to the launch bay? Bring them over to another area that has been speculated that, it's time for an update. We thought we were getting an update. Well, we just got a little bit of refurbishment. Why not let the Muppets take over? You ready? Let the Muppets take over Rock and Roller Coaster and the Sunset Showcase area, right? Where the Cars show is back there. There's a huge venue in there that you can have pretty much like carte blanche in terms of what you might want to put in, whether it is an updated Muppet show, it's moving that Muppet theater. But everybody's like, well, what band, how do you sort of possibly retheme Rock and Roller Coaster, right? You can't retheme it to Marvel. You can't theme it to Taylor Swift. You can't theme it to Cheap Trick or Kaja Gugu or whoever your favorite band is, right? So
showing your age there, bud.
When I almost like Bill Haley in the comments, but the one thing that everybody would love would be Muppets, right? Maybe it's some sort of like Electric Mayhem type band thing, and like it would make it fun, it would make it funny, it would make it accessible to everybody, as opposed to sort of, well, maybe I'm not a big Aerosmith fan, or I don't like that. You have that, you can build this almost like mini land back there, which is what was supposed to be on Sunset Boulevard way back when, right? They were going to have this entire Muppet-themed area potentially was one of the ideas. So that allows you to now expand Galaxy's Edge, connect it over by Star Tours, really sort of add additional theming, maybe expand the storyline for Galaxy's Edge. I think we've talked in the past about some of the issues with Galaxy's Edge is a disconnect from some of the stories and the characters and the time frames. Look, you want to, again, we're talking about touching on the heart, pulling on the heartstrings. You want to pull on the heartstrings, especially for an older generation like myself. And there's a Darth Vader there. There's a Luke. There's a Leia. There's some of these other characters that might not fit into Galaxy's Edge, but might be able to fit in somehow in some of these other parts of the land, and then connecting over to Star Tours. You can find a way to make it make sense or suspend the disbelief a little bit in between, just so that you have something that reaches on an emotional level, a broader spectrum of Star Wars fans. I think as much as I love Galaxy's Edge now, I think there was a lot more potential for Galaxy's Edge that was probably meant to come to pass that did not for a variety of reasons. So I think there's a way to sort of plus it up and turn the Galaxy's Edge dial up to 11, both in terms of storytelling, interactivity, and personalization. I think what we have with the data pad is a good first step. I think there's a lot more potential in terms of what that could be. I think there is an opportunity to potentially expand Animation Courtyard. And there's a lot of different rumors around here. We've heard, Monsters Inc. You kids are too young to remember. At one point, there was talk of, and supposedly was greenlit, a Monsters Inc. themed roller coaster attraction through the doors where Pixar Place and Toy Story Land currently sits. Who knows if something like that, again, familiar characters that are beloved by a number of generations. And I think there's also, I would be wildly shocked, whether we get at this an expo or not, if we do not get an announcement of a new nighttime show at Disney's Hollywood Studios. Becky, you talked about it for Magic Kingdom. Hollywood Studios is primed and ready for a new nighttime show. So while we haven't heard a lot, I think there's a lot of potential for what could potentially go there. Again, very, very sort of wish listy kind of stuff. And I'm also qualifying everything that I'm saying by not talking about anything Marvel related, although I do not necessarily think that is off the table. I will touch on that as we get to the end. Let's move over to Disney's Animal Kingdom, Willies. This is where Bluey would really fit in, right here. A lot.
It could go over here. That's fine, too.
Was it Bluey and Bingo?
Bluey and Bingo,
yes.
Bandit and Chili. It is on nonstop in our house. But at Animal Kingdom, I want to know Tropical Americas, and I want to know what specifically for me, what Indiana Jones I'm going to get. Am I going to get, we all know dinosaurs the same track? Are they just going to bring what they have over and repurpose it and say, here's Indy? I want to see. So we've never been to any other park except Walt Disney World. I hear amazing stories about the technology in the parks overseas. Specifically, one that is always brought up is Shanghai Pirates. And I don't want them to touch my Pirates in Magic Kingdom, but how cool would it be to create a brand new Indiana Jones type ride with that type of technology for us to enjoy in Tropical Americas? Because I don't want to repeat. I eventually will go to Disneyland and ride that one. But an all-new Indiana Jones ride would be awesome. That's my hope.
It's funny because Crystal's like looking. I'm trying to read the dynamic in Crystal's eyes.
She's like, I don't really like Indiana Jones.
I don't want to see a repeat of the ride. I'm with Matt there. I also don't know if I want to see a complete takeaway of all of the dinosaur stuff that is there in that area. If they could incorporate it somehow, that would be perfect. Just because I know, again, mom life, boy mom, I know that boys are still so into dinosaurs that I don't want to see all of the dinosaur stuff to be taken away. The carnival, that carnival section, goodbye, thank you. I could go to the boardwalk. I live in Jersey.
It made no sense. I mean, Indy's an archaeologist. He digs some stuff up. Maybe he comes across a dinosaur bone here and there.
Becky?
Good point. Yeah, that whole area. I think that's what I'm hoping to hear what is coming in. And I'm with you. I don't want to see an entire just cookie cutter Indy from Disneyland over. I like the fact that I have to go to Disneyland to experience that. I like the fact I have to go to Disneyland to see Cars Land. I like that there are unique experiences in these locations. And I as much as I don't want to have to go to Shanghai to go see what is probably one of my favorite rides ever, which is Pirates there. It'd be nice to have one in the US, but still, I would like to see something new, something much more inventive, something that comes off of their brains using today's technology rather than what was there 5 years ago. So I'm just happy that the dinosaur ride is gone. I'm sorry, Crystal. Me and dinosaurs don't get along because they eat your head. So that ride was one that was just like,
Becky also doesn't like Storybook Land canal boats because she's afraid of the giant monster of the whale. So there's a lot of therapy issues that Becky has that she
eats your head. It's like dinosaurs eat your head. So couldn't do it. But the ride system in that attraction, in the it's amazing
/Indy attraction, still holds up, and there's just too much of an investment not to leverage it. So I don't expect. I would be like, if I was a betting man, and I am, I would bet dollars to donuts it is not going to be a carbon copy of the Disneyland attraction. That would be something that I think would be a disappointment, because you have opportunity here to create something new, a new, different Indiana Jones adventure. You can base it off one of the other films or sort of come up with this unique storyline, because the Indiana Jones IP just gives you such a broad spectrum of areas and things that you can discuss. Here you have an opportunity, right? We talk about how so much, and understandably so, is based on IP, right? And when's the last time we have had a non-IP based attraction or a retelling of a story from movies? Indiana Jones gives you this character to play with and say, Indiana Jones has been around the world during this, wonderful, I love period piece like movies. So you have a wonderful sort of period piece that you can do with this attraction, but you could make up a brand new story about where Indiana Jones has gone. Has he gone to the pyramids in Egypt? Mm-hmm. So I think there's using that same ride. I just came up with that idea now. I'm so excited. But using that same ride system, right? Indy goes to Egypt, and all of a sudden you've got all kinds of. So there's really, really cool stuff. I think that you could do with that. I love the idea of the tropical Americas. I think from what we see in just that little piece of concept art, just the world building and the theming of that land is going to be spectacular in a region of the world that's really not represented in the Walt Disney World theme parks. So I'm excited to see, even if Encanto is more of an attraction based for younger kids, that's fine. I want to see what that world is going to look like. Yep. Do not write off Avatar and Pandora, the world of Avatar. What we got was a little bit less than what was originally planned for the grand opening, phase one, whatever you want to call it, of Pandora. Whatever the reasons might be, time, financial usually is a big part of it, right? Cutting back and making the attractions maybe a little bit shorter or smaller than they were. There is room. There is room. Not just in Pandora, but there is room in Avatar, because in 2025 we get the next of the next film in the first of a trilogy that's going to take us out to 2031. So that franchise is going to have legs. Those films are being shot right now, so it's not like, well, let's see how Avatar does. No, it's going to do well, and it's going to have 3 more films. So I would not be now whether we get this at this year's event or not. I would not be so sure that the book is closed on the expansion of Pandora at Disney's Animal Kingdom. So Let's quickly just go beyond the parks. And I will sort of give you free reign here at Walt Disney World. So whether it is resorts, whether it is Disney Springs, whether it is Star Cruiser, whatever it might be, Becky and then Woolies.
Okay, let's now circle back to Star Cruiser then, because that building is there. It had a ton of investment. I know that to take the tax write-off, it had to be unused a certain way for a certain amount of time. Is that time over at this point? And how cool would it be to have a hotel that is Star Wars themed, that would have a price point in that moderate to deluxe, where there are characters that hang out every now and then you have a unique entrance into Galaxy's Edge. I think that right now somebody told me it's being used as office buildings, and it's set up in such a way that it is a beautiful ability to use as a hotel, as it was meant to be, in a unique setting with a unique theme, and take advantage of what they've already got. I just think it's too bad if it just sat there. So that would be number one. And I know that you have thoughts on that. So
yeah, let's just quickly
do that before we go back
in Star Cruiser. So Woolies, any thoughts on Star Cruiser? Have you been to Star Cruiser, or have any sort of opinion on what you think might come or what you'd like to see come? And I think this is a longer conversation for a completely separate show.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We never got to go. We wanted to go. Again, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. My son Lincoln is growing up to be a Star Wars fan, and we were like, we're going to wait until he's of the age where he can enjoy everything in the hotel. So like the lightsaber training, I know there was an age limit to it. So it's like, I wanted to make sure he could enjoy everything with us. So we were upset when it went away. I understand the price point. It was something that we were going to have to plan for and save to be able to do it. But it was something that I wanted to do to further live the Star Wars story. Like, that's how it was kind of portrayed to everybody. And we loved watching when you guys were there and you'd share everything that it had to offer. I would love to. I don't want to see it just become office buildings or just continued use as office space. I would love to maybe have the ability to visit it as a daily option. Like, if you're part of the park and they can use it as some sort of in-depth Star Wars experience that you could go to. I mentioned earlier, I would love to see a nice Star Wars sit-down restaurant. I can see something like that being put into there, because they already had restaurants that they could utilize that space. If they were going to do a hotel, like you said, Becky, a moderate to a deluxe level, that would be amazing. I would do it. I know it's smaller, so it might be harder to do something like that. But yeah, I don't want to see it go away. I want to still be able to, at some point myself, to personally walk into it to see what it once was and what they now have with it, or could have with it.
Again, I have many thoughts about Star Cruiser, and maybe we should, like, we'll do a show in sort of blue sky, because every potential use case for the Star Cruiser has with it its own set of challenges behind it. You cannot, there's no way you could open up the doors tomorrow. You just can't, right? Right. Matthew, I agree with you. I think there's a hoop-de-doo like opportunity here in terms of a multi-hour experience where you go in, see some characters, you can shop, go on the bridge, and then you have this dinner with Gaia. It's a show. You can go into the lounge, etc. You now have 100 rooms, right, that are sitting there empty. Right. You can't open it as a hotel tomorrow. Why? It doesn't have the amenities for a hotel that a hotel guest is going to not just want, but demand and need. It's also backstage. Like, we forget that this hotel is backstage. With that comes its own set of challenges in terms of getting people in and out. I do think that there are plans for what is going to happen to the Star Cruiser, and I will hold off my thoughts until another day. My feeling, though, in terms of resorts, without question, whether we get it now or not, there are more resorts. I'll use the on the horizon, right? Without, like, remember the Disney Lakeside Reflections, the Disney Lakeside Lodge, which was announced back in 2018, which was going to be this a little bit more high-end, a little bit more of a luxury resort on Bay Lake, positioned between Wilderness Lodge and Fort Wilderness, where River Country was, with 900 rooms, Disney Vacation Club villas, a little bit more like upscale accommodations. a Princess and the Frog themed restaurant. Hello. And then in 2019, like all mention it, like nothing to see here. Just like they literally like, it's like they wiped everything from the internet as best that they possibly could. And for years, like we just haven't heard updates. Construction's halted. If you ever go on to Bay Lake, if you ever take one of the friendship boats to Wilderness Lodge, you can still see, or if you take if you do like one of the pontoon boats, you can't get too close, but you can see the construction that had started and was halted there. Look, that piece of land was already starting to be primed and conditioned to have a resort built. Walt Disney World hotels are at very, very high capacity all the time. They need more rooms. The Polynesian is almost done. I think the next logical step is to go back to this place that you have already started to plan for a resort. I also believe, and I know I've been saying this for years too, eventually it's going to happen. I think there's going to be a resort built next to Disney Springs. Specifically one that is, it's for guests and families, but also going to target the corporate and convention market, because in addition to needing more convention space, having Disney Springs there and letting people just sort of, waterfall out from the convention space right into Disney Springs makes perfect sense. It's why the boardwalk was built. It's why it's built next to the Swan and Dolphin and Yacht and Beach Club, which have all that convention space, because you need places for people to go. So I think Reflections, the Disney Lakeside Lodge, is not necessarily dead in the water, whether it's been renamed, rethemed, and a resort near Disney Springs. And we will see the Star Cruiser again in some form or fashion.
When you're talking about, can I talk about the resorts a little bit too? I'm with you on they need more hotel space. They absolutely do. I would love to see, and I'm going to say a couple of very controversial things, so make sure to email me.
I want a resort that's all concierge lounge all the time, no children.
No, that's not where I was going with this.
Oh, come on. That's a dream hotel for you, and you know it.
Wow. Anyway, I would really like to see a much better themed hotel idea. The current ones that they've had, or everything that's been new, has all been DVC resorts. And while that's great, it prices out a lot of people. So I would like to actually see another moderate option. I would like to see another value option and bring in that really heavy theming, rather than just kind of lean into what you've already got there and say, oh, and we're going to build a DVC right next to it. Now, obviously, Disney Vacation Club has a great presence and some great options there. And a lot of people still think, though, that you have to be a Vacation Club member to stay there, which is always one of those perception problems that we're constantly battling. Because people are like, well, I'd love to stay at Riviera, but I'm not a DVC member. We literally have to step in and go, no, it's okay. You can actually book there, even though you're not a member. So I would really like to see them think about the young families and think about more value options, more moderate options. And sure, if they have a space that's going to fit into the deluxe option, fine. But if you're going to do a luxury resort, then look at the competition to see what luxury is now. Because their deluxe resorts, they price them at luxury levels, but they're not really delivering on a luxury product. So if they do look at a luxury resort, please look at the competition and bring that level up to the prices that you're charging.
All right. Anything else Disney World wise?
Yeah, one more thing. And I think it kind of goes hand in hand with your resorts, how you're talking about we need more space. There's an influx of people in the crowds, and it has to do with transportation. And I would love to hear an expansion of either the Skyliner, the monorail, both, an update of the monorail. I think it would be awesome. I think it's something that people have been clamoring for a very long time. We know the monorail can break down sometimes, but it's in and itself an attraction. Like my son always wants to ride the monorail. He doesn't care if he's going to a park. He would just do the loop over and over again. So to, make sure to update that, to expand it. I know Walt, one of the ideas was we're going to have monorails everywhere and it's going to bring us to everything that we have to go to. So I would love to see more monorail and more Skyliner. Because even though I'm afraid of heights when it stops in the air and it's swaying, I still love the Skyliner. So
the Skyliner was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was absolutely brilliant. And to tie so many of those resorts to the Skyliner to easily get to a park,
Yep.
I loved that. And I'm with you. I wish that they would expand that too.
Yeah, I don't know that it could ever be expanded to Magic Kingdom or Animal Kingdom because it's a long span, right? That would be a long Skyliner without having any sort of stops in between. Same thing with the monorail. Look, I've been a monorail fan since I was a kid. As a kid, I used to, my parents, because this is like the safest place on earth, they would let me just go and ride on the monorail for hours after we came back from the park because it was an attraction to me. It's incredibly expensive to expand, but having a monorail to, a place like Animal Kingdom or wherever else might be coming in the future would not be the worst thing in the world. Let's go from East Coast to West Coast and over to Disneyland. Becky, you gave a little squeal when I said Disneyland, so I'll let you go first.
I am so excited about this. This is where I think, all right, I'm hoping and I'm betting that now that Disneyland Forward has been approved through all of the processes that needs to be approved, that this expo, not expo, but you know what I mean, is going to be the time where we're going to hear what they're actually planning for Disneyland Forward. And I've seen all kinds of ideas. I've seen speculation. I've seen how they're going to take over that parking lot and turn it into a third gate, but not really. But really, I would love to hear what that plan actually is for that area behind Pixar Pier Place, the new hotel that they just redid. But there's a couple of places too that I've been kind of wondering what's next, like that beautiful Hyperion Theater is just kind of sitting there. And what are they going to do with that? Because it's so underutilized. And that whole area back there in that between Cars Land and Adventures Campus in that back corner, right? I would love to see or hear that they're going to expand that, either expand it more into the Marvel universe or to do something with all that land and space that they have back in that back corner. In addition, we still haven't really heard about the new Avengers Campus attraction either. So is this the year we're going to hear about that? I hope, fingers crossed. So those are the three things I'm looking forward to most. What are they going to do with Hyperion Theater? What am I going to get from my new Adventure Campus attraction? And what is the Disneyland Forward plan?
Willies?
Avengers Campus is the highlight for us. That's where we would love to visit with Lincoln. We want more Avengers Campus. I would love it in Walt Disney World, but I know that that's a far reach. But so any growth,
I'm with Lou. I'm restraining myself from Marvel.
Any growth in Avengers just makes me happy. I'm an Iron Man fan, so I want more Iron Man. An Iron Man attraction, we'd be on the first flight out there.
Yeah. For Lincoln would probably leave us and just go on his own.
Yeah, that's right. Your son would lose his little marbles if they built.
He would.
Any expansion of Marvel, because Lou, maybe we're going to get into this a little bit later. Our dreams for Walt Disney World, but if all we can get is Disneyland, I want to see it blow up as much as it can over there because it's such a huge property. It's so many stories and characters that people relate to, even if you're not like a huge MCU person, you can still connect with the characters. I know you're a huge Spider-Man fan and you're a big Spider-Man fan before the MCU existed and the Spider-Man movies existed. So to have anything like that, and yes, we'll lean towards Iron Man, even though I'm a Captain America guy myself. Iron Man would be awesome to have an attraction or something with like Black Panther, another very big property and film that a lot of people kind of relate to that character and like that character. So I'm right there with you, Becky. Tell me what the next attraction for Avengers Campus is.
Yeah, I think that we're going to get a lot more detail, much more specific detail about this e-ticket attraction that and they sort of hinted at this already, right? It's going to combine not just physical spaces, but immersive media. So it's going to be like, Spider-Man and some of the stuff that's being built out or just built out in Tokyo Disney Sea with the Neverland Adventure. We have an idea of what it's going to be with time suits and jump points and Wakandan technology and King Thanos, but we need to see more. And I think we need to sort of put a flag in, or at least a time frame in terms of when this is going to happen.
Yeah.
I mentioned Avatar and Walt Disney World. We know that Avatar is a top priority for Disneyland and Disneyland Forward. What is that going to look like? I hope it is not Flight of Passage. I hope it is not, and I don't think it will be. I think right now, for a variety of reasons, you cannot copy and paste attractions from place to place, nor should you. I think it's not what is going to be. Look, it's not about being guest satisfiers anymore. It's about guest mind-blowing things, and I think you have to have something that's going to, in keeping with Avatar, pushing the limits of technology and storytelling. You have to do the same on an attraction. What Disneyland Forward is going to be is also very interesting, right? We've heard about it being sort of expansions of existing lands within Disneyland Park and Disney California Adventure with new attractions to enhance, or is it going to be something completely new? I've seen and heard things, but I also have my own speculation, and I'm gonna take a step back instead and just say I'll be curious to see if some of those things come to pass. And I'm not sure that Disneyland is off the table either. We talk about Tomorrowland and Walt Disney World. I think Tomorrowland and Disneyland is also very, very ripe for some reimagining, retheming, a little bit of improvement, maybe even over in Fantasyland as well too. I think Disneyland Forward obviously going to include the development of new hotels or expansions of existing ones. Very, very well themed, right? Is it can't be a Pixar Pier hotel. It's got to be something that is very well themed. I think there's areas for entertainment and like show venues. Like, so I think this opens up the door to new nighttime and daytime shows and parades and nighttime spectaculars. So you'll have something in DCA, you'll have something in Disneyland, and now you'll have something in Disneyland Forward, as well as, retail and dining and everything else that comes along with it. But again, you've got a blank canvas. You have a blank canvas to like integrate. Look, it's like when Walt first went there, right? Yes, you have sort of, a confined space, but you have the ability to use the latest in technology and immersive and interactive and personalized storytelling and this continued tradition of innovation. Like, here it is. Like, you've been given it. You've got this space right across the street. Let's see what happens. So, P.S.
It's exciting.
Bring back Paint the Night.
Oh, yes.
That parade.
It was such an amazing parade.
God,
it was
and it can't
so
come to
great.
Walton. It's too big for World.
Too big.
So,
yep.
Yeah. So I'd love to see it there. And I think, and I wanted to say this for both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. I don't think it all has to be e-ticket attractions. Far from it. I think that it doesn't have to be a grand slam every time. 1 and 2 base hits are really, really good. A walk is as good as a hit, as my dad used to say. So you can have a lot of little things that sort of paint this broader picture and enhance the storytelling. But again, it's got to be, and it needs to be, and I want it to be nothing that we've talked about. I want it to be something out of nowhere, and that nobody's thought of before. Just like when we heard about, with the Treasure, nobody expected a Haunted Mansion themed lounge. Nobody expected Joe. So there's this, do that here in the parks, and with substantive announcements. Just very quickly before we get to maybe studios and streaming, anything in terms of the overseas parks? We know about some things that are already happening, like at Walt Disney Studios Park in Paris with Disney Adventure World and Shanghai and Hong Kong, and certainly Disney Cruise Line. I think we're going to hear more as part of the experiences showcase, with some new developments coming to the fleet. But anything specifically you wanted to touch on the overseas parks? By the way, Woolies, we have to teach you research trips. You are a professional.
They're very important.
You need to go.
Yeah, we were going to say we have not been fortunate enough to go outside of Walt Disney World yet. Again, we very often live vicariously through streamers, and when you guys go on your trips, we're always definitely watching what everybody's doing. I can't speak to like a specific thing to the parks. My only hope is that they just continue to expand and continue to grow around the world, because that's just what's best for Disney in general, right? If they're succeeding everywhere else, it's just going to let them get bigger and better here as well. So I hope that it just continues to grow.
I have a wish list for Tokyo, especially if anybody out there is listening who cares, would love a way for travel advisors to help clients book Tokyo, Japan. That'd be great. Blue skying, it'd just be nice to do. But not so much the parks themselves. I do agree that the expansion, they do such a great job over there. Oriental Land Company just does amazing things with the IP and the money that they're investing every time they turn around. It's still, to me, the park that Imagineers had an open checkbook for, and they just do such a great job with everything that they get their hands on. But tying in with cruise line, and I don't know if you're going to touch on this afterwards, but it is kind of so focused right now on those two ships that are coming. The new ship that they're talking about that OLC will actually own and operate, but it's going to be Disney branded, which I find interesting how that's going to work. Much like the parks themselves, how are they going to balance the need of the Asian market in the cruise lines with what Disney provides as an experience, which is the same challenge they have with the Adventure, which of course is the one that's going into Singapore, because the Asian market is very different. And since especially the Adventure is going to be a 3 and 4 day, they're not targeting the American market for this. So it's going to be interesting.
I'm still going.
Oh yeah. Believe me, the moment we can book it, we're on it. You know that. Because we'll have to do back to back, maybe back to back to back, because when you're talking about a ship that is 208 gross tonnage, which is huge. If you want to compare, the Treasure is 144. So, and the biggest ship in the world, which is the Icon of the Seas right now, which is 250. So it's up there as being some of the biggest ships afloat. What are they going to do with all that space? And how are they going to drive in the IP that will appeal to the Asian market, but yet still provide that Disney quality experience? So I'm hoping that we hear about that in these presentations as well, about what to expect on both of these ships. And of course, the Destiny is coming as well with the heroes and villains theming, which is exciting. The moment you start saying villains to any of us, it's like, yes, what can you do with that? So I'm really hoping that they lean into giving us a lot more detail about all of the things that are coming, the 3 ships in particular that we don't know anything about. And when you're talking about the Japan ship, are we going to be able to do a land and sea? How cool would that be?
Yes, we can. Even if we have to just make it up on our own. Yes, I'm just telling you, yes, we can. I do think we're going to get more details from Disney Cruise Line, but I'm going to, and this may come back to haunt me, and it would not be the first time I'm wrong. I'm going to plant my flag.
Is this your Mephisto?
This is it. I'm going to plant my flag right now.
Okay.
And I welcome those who may disagree, because I know this has been a big question about the Adventure. I say that there is no way that there is going to be Casino Land on that ship. The Asian we talk about, and forgive me, I'm not painting with a broad brush, but the Asian market traditionally has, like, the ships there, they demand casinos. It's a culture that enjoys and expects gambling. Look, that is not the road that Disney wants to hoe and the business that they want to be in. They are not in it, just like Disney Cruise Line here domestically does not have casinos. Most other cruise lines do. It is a completely different ball game. Because people say, well, Disney's already gambling because ESPN. That's different. Online sports betting and sportsbook is a different world. And you might say, well, look, they're not going to survive because the market demands it. I disagree. I think Disney is going to be the first of potentially being the first cruise line to pave the way for a new class of cruise line experience in the Asian markets that is specifically focused on families, non-gambling, and some of the other things that potentially brings with it. But there is no iteration in my head that I can envision of a Disney cruise line, I want to be clear, ship having a casino on board. I can't, like, Mickey Craps does not compute for me. And I just,
well, all right. I get you. I see what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
If there was a Marvel themed poker room, you'd have a tough time getting
you'd be
to
there.
The buffet, but
so I'm a little less optimistic about that. And I know where I'm picking up what you're throwing down there, Lou, but the way that it was presented at the very beginning, right out of the gate with the press releases stating this is not for the U.S. market. It was so clear. It was so concise to set it apart that this was not supposed to be what that typical Disney Cruise Line experience was. They were saying it between the lines. And to me, it was telling me that they're considering it. So we'll see if you're right or I'm right.
What is the first word in the name of the brand? What cruise line?
Correct. However, this one is going to be, you and I we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening. I'm not saying that you're not right. I just am leaning. I think that they might try it. I just have that gut feeling they may try again.
No, I just don't see a world, because it's also part of the premium you pay for a Disney Cruise Line ship, right? When people say, well, look, Disney's more expensive than X Line. Well, that's right, because you don't have, one, I think there's reasons that justify it, and two, you don't have a casino, which is a massive revenue generator. Like, absolutely. Without a doubt. Las Vegas was not built on people's generosity. The same thing on some of these cruise lines. I mean, the casino is an integral part of the business, not just an ancillary, secondary or tertiary aspect to it.
I'm not saying that it's the right thing to put it on the ship. I'm not arguing that at all, because I believe that Disney should stay true to itself. However, again, just knowing the Asian cruise market, knowing what has happened to others who have tried that, I just don't see how realistically it can be done and still be profitable. But then again,
but they're not Disney. Would it be okay?
This is true.
Can they put a casino? Would it be okay to put a casino in Shanghai Disneyland Resort?
Sure. I don't know. I just wanted to see your face when I said that. I wanted to watch your head explode for a second.
It is.
This is going to be an ongoing thing until we actually can step on board and see it. So again,
if they announce it, people will listen, like there'll be like this scream in the back where Becky and I will go to see, I told you, there's no casino.
That's right.
There's a casino.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. I will not blame them if they do it, and I think that it can be done family friendly. On other cruise ships, it's done. There's not children in the casino. It can be done. So I think that it can go either way.
No, it can't.
I'm doing my True Libra now.
There's no casino. There's not. It can't go either way. There's not going to be a casino on board. That's it. That's my.
This is not the only thing we've ever disagreed on. So, okay, moving on.
All right,
but we'll be there. We're going to be there in person to see it.
Any other thoughts from a Parks and Resorts perspective before we hit the screens?
Okay, so I don't know if this counts. It's like in the middle because it's Marvel, and you brought it up, and I was trying to restrain myself because my dream is that they somehow get more Marvel in Walt Disney World. And I know that technically they can't. Me and Crystal consistently go back and forth. And I'm always like, just give Universal The Simpsons. Be like, here's The Simpsons. And I get to use, and you can still use the old school versions of your heroes and keep your stuff. I just want the MCU heroes to be able to use them. So that's like my big dream when it comes to in the parks. Pay up. I mean, they're saying they're going to spend some money. Maybe give them some money. Give them The Simpsons. Say you can still use these guys. Just anything to bring more in. And I know they still have access to some characters, like those side things. Like they can use Guardians of the Galaxy. So there are some other smaller properties that they could bring in. So even if they could just bring more Marvel in. But my dream would be to make some sort of deal so they can use MCU in the park.
Matt, my brother, you are... For me, this is the same thing. It's like imagination. I'll just keep saying it because eventually it's going to happen. Right. It makes sense for both sides, right? From a financial perspective, from an IP perspective, from a storytelling perspective. Universal needs the space. They don't need, the 1979 version of Captain America, which is like super weird when you see him in the park there. Yeah. So look, whether it happens and is announced at this event or not, I think it's a fait accompli. I think this is going to happen at some point because it makes sense for both parties and it makes sense for us as guests as well. I think it's odd to go to Universal and see those characters. There's a disconnect, especially for younger kids who are not necessarily familiar with, like, why is Storm wearing her yellow jumpsuit? Although I just saw it in Deadpool versus Wolverine. So we shall see. But I think this is a good way to segue over to the studios and streaming and streaming, the big screens and the small screens. I have a lot that I expect to come, especially on the Marvel side. But Woolies and Becky, any thoughts specifically or wish lists in terms of what you expect from the studios and streaming side?
All right, so you brought it up earlier when you said... set the scene. Imagine you're in the Honda Center and Dreamfinder walks out. Well, I'm not looking for Dreamfinder. Mine is, it's dark. That Marvel logo flutters across the screen. You hear the opening guitar string from Iron Man, and RDJ is on the stage.
Wow.
And he says, I am Iron Man, and it's either Secret Wars or it's something, but somehow we get Iron Man back, and... even if it's just a little mini kickstart back into the MCU, but I feel like RDJ is the guy to do it. And
so, Matt, is that for you? Is that for you, or is it because you were like the best dad in the world and you want that for your son?
So it's both. It's definitely both. I feel like there's different ways of doing it. Like I love Captain America; he's my favorite superhero. So like I would love to see Chris Evans come back and see some stuff as Steve Rogers. I know we still have Captain America 4 coming with Falcon, but that could happen. So yes, there is a little bit because it's Lincoln's favorite. But I still honestly believe the best possible person to do that with is Iron Man because he's the one that started it. And, I mean, I don't think any other actor embodies the character in the MCU as much as RDJ embodies Iron Man.
I agree. I didn't have that on my list, but you want to talk about a place losing their collective marbles?
Yeah.
Bring out Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a lot of Marvel, but I'll stop there. That's definitely...
No, go ahead. Lay it all out. Just put all your Marvel, put all your Marvel marbles on the table.
Yeah. So I love the What If series, and I know there's probably plans of continuing that, but there's certain stories that we've seen in the episodes that I think would make really cool projects. I love zombies and I love Marvel, so I love the Marvel zombie ones that they've done. If we could have a live action Marvel Zombies, like a true horror movie, like we're kind of getting with Multiverse of Madness and other films that are coming out. Or, and this might be a go with me, but I loved Werewolf by Night, the Halloween special that they did. So I feel like they could have a really cool live action Halloween special Marvel Zombies that I think would get a lot of people interested. Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I like that.
This is like
I like Werewolf by Night. Don't sleep on. If you've never seen Werewolf by Night, don't sleep on that. It's a one-off thing, but it's directed by Michael Giacchino, who I love. You know him as a composer. I may or may not be specifically referring to Lost, but yeah, he did an amazing job on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to
studios or streaming or Disney Plus or
anything.
I have a heartstring one.
Is this Bluey again? Is this going to be the Bluey full-length animated feature?
No, it's kind of a go with me, but not really. I want something similar in a sense to Saving Mr. Banks. I want a Walt and Roy a beginning story. I want their history, and I want it into the parks and to explain why the parks are the way they are, why we are guests, and why the cast members are called cast members. I feel like a lot of people are coming away from that and they're just seeing it as a theme park and not what it magically is to us as longtime Disney fans. I feel like I don't want it an in-your-face kind of movie. I want it to be simple, and I don't want it to be a documentary. I don't want it to be historic. I want it to be
like Saving Mr. Banks.
Yes.
Like a retelling, but an actual film.
Exactly.
So a prequel. You want a Saving Mr. Banks prequel.
Prequel. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it. But about Walt and Roy and their story and how Disney came to be.
Tom Hanks still?
With Tom Hanks as Walt Disney. Otherwise, I don't want it.
Age him down a little bit.
Something, yeah.
It's funny for me on streaming. I haven't been looking forward because things had gotten so kind of out of sorts, and I hadn't really been happy with anything I've seen since Wanda and Moon Knight. But I want to see what happens with Agatha and Deadpool, and those are coming. I want to evaluate those and see if the quality is back. And in all honesty, I don't want them to stand up there and say, we've got this coming. I need them to get back to where they were and say, this one thing is coming and we're going to focus on it. And we're going to make sure the storytelling is up to par. And I'm hoping they don't lay out a whole line of stuff like dominoes and just to have it return to the crazy that it's been for the past few years. So I just want to see Agatha and I want to see Deadpool, and then I want to take a breath and go, okay, they're back. And then see what rolls out beyond that. And Secret Wars and everything else that's going to be queued up. I want it to feel like Avengers did. I want it to feel like everything before Endgame, how we were so excited about every little detail in the story. And then there were just so many stories and it went so off the rails that I got disappointed with it. And I really want to get that back.
I have bad news for you, Becky, because I have a list of dominoes that I expect to fall. But I do want to
let me have the two. I
want to first. I have feelings. I have feelings that I know. I take that back. I don't. I have not had feelings, and that's part of my problem. The studios on the big and small screen have not made me feel the way I used to feel. Who could have ever expected when we walked out of Endgame to say, a few years from now, we're going to be questioning whether Deadpool can save Marvel, because those are conversations that are happening. Who remembers coming out of Marvel movies, Disney movies, getting back on your phone and buying tickets right again, going on your phone and like finding the soundtrack on Spotify, watching a Disney Plus show or series and gathering around the quote unquote, the virtual online water cooler and talking to your friends about it, speculating about what's coming next week, like not believing what you saw and having those cliffhanger moments. We have not had those. I have not had those for years, and I don't think I'm alone. I will tell you what I don't want to see. I don't want to see another live action adaptation. I don't want to see another sequel. Mm-hmm. No, I asked every person on the planet, not only one person asked for Toy Story 5. I don't know, and I understand why, right? And I say that as Inside Out 2 becomes like the third most like money-making animated film in history, because it did what the films up to now over the past few years have not done, which is make us feel. It was that emotional roller coaster. Like, I laughed out loud. Like, I cried. I was very like, I loved the fact that I felt the way I did, because I haven't felt that way. And I haven't felt that way about Marvel movies, which I'm very, very sad to say, right? Because look behind me. Like, I love Marvel. I haven't felt that way even about some of the Disney Plus series. So what I expect, what I hope for is exactly what, specifically speaking to Marvel, what Kevin Feige, not Kevin like the AI from She-Hulk, meant when he said, we're going to step back, we're going to pull everything back in, we're going to revisit, and we're going to do less better. It's not about how much we can put out, it's about the quality that we're going, and I'm obviously paraphrasing. So I think that's what's going to happen. And I feel like, before I get to Marvel, just from the Disney studios themselves, Disney/Pixar, we need to hear about something that is going to get us excited again. Snow White is not going to be it. I'm going to sort of predict it right now and say it's not going to be Snow White. I'm actually going to leave Lucasfilm off the table, because I don't think, for me as a 77 Star Wars fan, I don't think that Lucasfilm is in a great place right now in terms of the storytelling and the fandom. I think for Marvel, which is very important to me, because I love it for myself. I love sharing it with my kids. I love sharing it with my friends. I do expect that they are going to lean into your point, Matt, like things like Werewolf by Night, even Moon Knight. It was a little bit, an adult is not the right word, but it was a little more on the edge. And I think we're going to see, I think Agatha All Along is going to knock people's socks off, because I think we see from the trailer, it's going to be very dark. I even think the next Captain America is going to have a little bit of that in it, right? With Red Hulk, etc. I do think, Becky, though, as much as stuff has been pulled back on and some things maybe not end up coming to light, I do think we're going to maybe get a teaser or a trailer for Thunderbolts. If they do not like roll out the Fantastic Four and bring them out on stage, there's going to be a riot, right?
That's overdue.
But I think we're going to I think we'll hear more about Wonder Man. I think Blade has gone through so much like turmoil that if they were able to give us those first images of video, get somebody out on stage, it would go a long way. Yes, we're going to hear about Doctor Strange 3 and Shang-Chi 2, Thor 5, Avengers 5, and who's going to play Kang is going to be fascinating. But I also think, I think Black Panther 3 is interesting for obvious reasons. We're looking to sort of 2027, but I think, fortunately or unfortunately, you have to make an Eternals too. Like, there's a lot of stuff that just sort of opened up. But I also think, and the things that I don't, unless you're sort of a nerdy fan, like I think we might get something for the Midnight Suns. I think they've been sort of assembling that team. And I have two words for you that and this is like the little boy, like reading comic books in like 1973. The two words I have for you, and this is another one I'm sort of planting my flag, is Dr. Doom. I think Dr. Doom, I think we are primed for that kind of like earth-shattering villain who's such a great character, transcends so many different characters and storylines. Dr. Doom would be an amazing character to see. From a streaming perspective, again, Disney Plus as well. I have not necessarily, since WandaVision, I haven't felt the same way about any of those shows. WandaVision, like I used to watch those episodes multiple times. I'd be texting at 2:00 in the morning, like with people like about the episode on my second rewatch. Like it's the same thing. It's those water cooler conversations. I think we're going to get I hope. You want to see me lose my marbles. Give me the Daredevil Born Again trailer.
Yes.
Give me, oh, good. That's all I want. Kevin, that if you're listening, that's all I want. But I also think we're going to see the an announcement about Young Avengers. Again, same thing. They've sort of been planting those metaphorical little seeds along the way. I'm also curious to see about things like Armor Wars and Vision Quest. Are they going to happen? And I think Vision Quest has to happen because he's just sort of out there floating around. So maybe like summertime in 26. But I also think we'll get Moon Knight season 2 and Hawkeye season 2 probably. I think Kevin's going to give us that up to 27 timeline that shows us Hawkeye suit to Moon Knight season 2. The rumor of a Nova series. And there's 2 other ones. I mean, as long as I'm laying out all my dominoes, I might as well. I think they won't say it out loud, but remember there was a discussion about a Wakanda series and a 10 Ring series. I think those might be sort of falling victim to, we don't have to sort of put everything out that we talked about. I think 10 Rings is going to instead focus more on Shang-Chi 2, and Wakanda will probably be canceled and focus more on Black Panther 3 instead. Doing less better, being super impactful in this connected universe that now it really all is connected, right? Now that we've got, the Daredevil and She-Hulk and then Daredevil Born Again coming back. Daredevil Born Again is the thing I'm looking forward to most. And I'm seeing the studio's presentation as much as I'm looking forward to Parks and Resorts is the big unknown. Right. I think we touched on a lot of things that we will definitely hear about, but I think that's the big unknown. And there's so many opportunities for those moments for Kevin to say something we don't expect, or, Charlie Cox or Vincent D'Onofrio or whoever your favorite actor is coming out and talking about that next project that maybe wasn't even on any of our lists.
Which all of that would be fantastic. I just need to trust again that they really have dialed back and they're going to put the quality in it again. Otherwise, I'm afraid to be disappointed. Because you're right. Walking out of Endgame, I was, oh my gosh, I need to see this again because there's so much that I missed and I really want to see. So I think I saw that film when it was in release 6 or 7 times, and I could have seen more if I wasn't on the road as much as I was. And then I think I've seen it another 20 or 30 times in reruns because it had so much emotion and that impact, and it was tying up the stories. And I miss that feeling. I miss the feeling of going, Lou, we need to do a watch party for this. We need to get together and do a watch party. And the last time we did that was for Moon Knight. And it was really fun, though.
We were doing nation calls, right? We were doing nation calls every week, like watching these shows together because we were having that shared experience. That's what D23 is going to give us for the people who are in the room, but that's what they need to extend out, giving us that shared experience together in the parks and in the movies and on our couches.
Exactly.
I'm exhausted. Did we? This
was a lot for a 15-minute show. I mean, geez.
Well, look, and that's the hope, right, Becky? Like the hope is that it is going to be this. Look, D23 is wonderfully overwhelming, right? There's so much going on all at once, panels and presentations, and we haven't even talked about like stuff that's on the floor, but that's part of the fun. It's why we look forward to this event. It's why we look forward to talking about the event.
There's going to be a Marvel TVA walkthrough. I mean, I saw that and I'm like, I am there. I will stand in line for that. I want to do the TVA walkthrough. I want to see Ms. Minutes. I'm so hyped for that. And I haven't even read everything that's on the floor. You're right. It's mentally overwhelming. My feet already hurt just thinking about it, but in a good way. I can't wait to walk away from that again. Hopefully, we've had several of those moments where the oxygen went totally out of the entire arena because we are so excited for what we just heard. That's my hope.
Woolies, anything for you that we missed that was on your list?
I mean, unless we have another 2 hours, I think we did a pretty good job, hitting some of the highlights. I mean, of course, there's tons of stuff, but like you said, it at D23, and we're not going to be there, right? So we're going to be living vicariously through the streams and what you guys share, which we always appreciate, and everything. And like you said, it has to extend out to everybody, and I feel like that's what they have done very well in the past. But this is not D23 Expo, right? They're billing it as like the biggest thing that they have ever done. So the announcements need to be the biggest thing that they have ever done. And that's what I'm hoping to get out of, we'll actually be driving down to Disney World while it's going on. So whoever's in the passenger seat, I'm sure will be scrolling through everything to watch what's going on.
All right. So in conclusion, we covered a lot. What is the one thing, Becky and Woolies, if you can have, there's this treasure chest of all these amazing things you can, it's like going to the dentist office. Oh, I said it like a core memory. Going to the dentist office remember the dentist office had like the little treasure chest, the little like cardboard treasure chest, like with all like the like toys you could pick out. I still remember my dentist's name when I was a kid. Wow. If you could dip into that D23 treasure chest and pick one thing out, that is the one thing that you hope, want, expect, wish will be announced and revealed at Expo, what is it, Becky and Woolies?
I knew you were going to do that to me first.
Of course I was.
When I was putting this on, I can't just do one. I can never just do one.
One.
What? Dang. Besides the cruise.
One means one.
1 plus 4 is 1. Becky math. The first thing that I wrote down, the very first thing when I was thinking about what I was hoping, it was the nighttime parade. I really am hoping that there's, in both parks, give me a Disneyland nighttime thing to be excited about. Give me a Disney World nighttime parade after you've seen the show in Disneyland Paris, it's the drone show, guys, not the other part that we saw, but the drone show piece and the projections. I really want to see something fantastic come to Disney World. It is warranted. The technology is there. Why haven't we done this? I mean, way back remember when we saw a dragon fly through Fantasyland and we've never seen it since? Why haven't we had something like that? I'm just really hoping to see something for all ages that can get us all excited, kids to adults, on a nighttime spectacular. Because those are the parades that I've walked away with the most memories and the most adoration for. So I'm going to use that, obviously, besides the cruise line stuff that I want to hear. And by the way, I want to see the Grey's Anatomy 20th anniversary and the Imaginary Pavilion. Okay, go ahead.
For me, it's the Imagination Pavilion. I remember 2 years ago at D23 crying when they announced that Figment was going to be able to be hugged again. And so for me, that overhaul of that pavilion, bringing it back, moving it forward, whatever it needs to, Figment needs to come back to life for me. Or the ride needs to come back to life for me.
Okay, so I'm going to do it because I'll get yelled at if I don't lose. So
don't say Bluey. Don't just suck up and say Bluey.
Come on, Bluey's great.
I'm going to say something real quick for Lincoln, and then I'm going to do it because when Lincoln listens to this, he'll yell at me. Lincoln's big one, Marvel and Walt Disney World, so he can meet Iron Man. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to be sneaky, and I'm going to actually say something that we didn't say yet. And mine is I want to see Walt in the park. So they had the Disney 100 Expo where they had, I guess you were greeted by a hologram of Walt. I would love to see that type of thing somehow used where I feel like there's not enough Walt inside the parks, like the man himself. I know we have One Man's Dream in Hollywood Studios, but I would love it if you could somehow walk up and there's a hologram of Walt where he's kind of either going through like, this is what the plans of Disney were, or this is what this is. I just want more Walt in person to enjoy and see and hear from and hear his voice in some way.
I dig that.
Interesting.
Look at you pulling out. Look at you pulling the ace that you had up your sleeve the whole time. Well done.
And Bluey.
And Bluey.
One thing I didn't mention that I just thought of is, I was going back to past expos and thinking about things that stood out to me, not just from inside the rooms, but on the show floor. And I've been sort of talking in abstracts for years about the immersion and personalization, and they've become sort of marketing buzzwords. Bob Iger has very intentionally continued and repeatedly used the word turbocharge the experiences. I want a payoff. I want the payoff of the turbocharging. Like, tell me now what you have been referring to with that word. And I think that's what we're hoping for. I would love to see additional depth in experiences. Think back to other expos where we got sort of little hints of some of these experiences that were not just in park, but out of park, right? Whether it was the Optimist, whether it was some of the challenge things where you could get some of the little, like the tiki jujus and stuff like that. I think that another layer of the park going experience is starting to slowly be blanketed on, and I hope to maybe start to see iterations of that. And I know that's again, I'm also sort of painting with a very large abstract brush, but that's what I would like to see. In terms of concrete stuff, God, Figment's so easy, right? It's so easy to just want to wrap our arms and hearts around Figment in the park. But maybe that's it. Like, maybe that's the thing that I want to see, because we love that character so much. We want to see that pavilion have new life breathed into it, because I think those Figmenty rainbows are going to sort of wash over the rest of the park and continue to lift that entire park up. So,
and
Daredevil.
Oh, see, now you went to 3. So now I feel like I need to add like 20 more. But I thought you were going to go for Disneyland Foods, because obviously that's going to be the panel that you're going to run off to.
Food once. I didn't even mention Din Tai Fung.
I know. That's why I'm saying this is a very unusual podcast, because normally food is in there somewhere. So I thought the Disneyland Foods panel was going to be the place you were going to go. But all right, fine. Daredevil. Fine.
But I also want to know from you, our friend who's been sitting there silently to us, but possibly yelling at your phone, what is on your wish list? What is the one thing, or multiple things, that you hope to have revealed, to have introduced to us at this year's D23 Ultimate Disney Fan Event? You can let me know a number of different ways. I would love for you to call the voicemail. I will play it on the air. Be part of the show. I will play it on the air. I think you have 3 minutes or multiple calls to tell us 407-900-9391. That's 407-900-WDW1. I'll also put this question in, or I'll link to this question in the clubhouse over at wdwradio.com/clubhouse. That is our fun, friendly, family-friendly, very welcoming group over on Facebook, and I'll put it on the show notes. I'll link to it directly in the show notes at wdwradio.com, and click on this week's podcast. Also, what I would love for you to do as well is go and visit our they're longtime friends for me. I want you to go and visit Matthew and Crystal Woolley, not at their house because it's weird and Lincoln doesn't want you playing with his Iron Man toy, but at the Married to a Disney Addict podcast. Guys, very quickly, just tell us about the podcast and then where they can find and connect with you.
So we're not longtime podcasters. I know you teased that at the beginning there. We're in our first year.
That's a long time.
It's 6. I mean, I guess we're holding on longer than some other ones that we've heard do. But Crystal is the Disney addict. She's what I call the OG Disney addict. It kind of started off as an Instagram page where I was technically making fun of her.
Me.
Like, oh, look, we're going to Disney again. And she's making me go on Figment. And look at all this stuff. And then over time, it morphed into me also turning into a Disney addict. And, it was us sharing our adventures in Disney. And then when we had our kids, it grew even more. And then people just started talking to us and we're like, we love this. And Lou, I mean, when we found WDW Radio, it was the first podcast in general that I've ever listened to, let alone Disney podcast. And it is what you built was the biggest influence on us, that we wanted to also be able to continue to have conversations with people. And we wanted to be able to share our passion and love of Disney. And so that's kind of what the Facebook group and the Instagram page became. And then we took it a step further with the podcast. We're like, let's talk and meet. And we always try to bring, we call it our Ohana, the members of whoever wants to be on it can always come on an episode. And every episode is with guests from our Ohana to just chat about different topics and share their stories. And we have a lot of fun doing that.
I love it. Where can they find you on social?
At Married to a Disney Addict.
Awesome.
So we're on Facebook and Instagram. We have a website, marriedtoadisneyaddict.com. And then the podcast is on Apple and Spotify and I guess wherever else you listen to. We're still learning that part, but we know it's on those two platforms.
We'll talk offline. I will help you any way that I can. And look, even if you can't make it out to Expo, but you are excited and inspired to go to a Disney park, to a Disney cruise line port and destination, to Aulani, to an overseas park, or anywhere on this big, blue, beautiful world of ours, Becky and her amazing team of travel advisors at mousefantravel.com can help you. And you can also find them at Mousefan Travel on all of the socials as well, right?
Close. Some of them are actually MEI, Mousefan Travel. But if you go to mousefantravel.com, you can request a quote through there, or go to mei-travel.com for every destination around the globe, including a booking engine that's now available for cruising off of that site, that you can go in, you can see our special offers for all major cruise lines and our group space that can save thousands. So we just added a new little tool, which I'll be putting out in social soon.
Cool. And I will link, as always, I will link to all that stuff on the show notes. Guys, thank you again for being so generous with your time tonight, for your insight and for your creativity in terms of some of the things that you are expecting. I am super excited for this year's event, not just to be on the show floor, but I am a fan first. And like I said, this is our 3-day Super Bowl, being surrounded by tens of thousands of like-minded people. There's an amazing energy that happens on the show floor, and I cannot wait to see what happens in the rooms at the conference, at the convention center, as well as at the Honda Center at night. So Matthew and Krista Woolley, Becky Menken, and of course you, my friend, listening at home, or we're at work, which is fine. Thank you guys so very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. And we have so much work to do. We've got a ton of work to do. We've got a to-do list. We have how many weeks do we have? We have don't you tell me plenty of time. You know that drives me insane when you tell me we have plenty of time.
When will they see the balloon?
I know. Shh, don't say anything. Shh. It's going to be mind-blowing.
I'm going to hang up on Becky and tell the Willies what the...
You're not saying a thing.
It's time for our Walt Disney World Trivia Question of the Week, and nearly 20 years later, I still love these trivia questions. It is where I got my start with my Walt Disney World trivia book, and I love helping to test your knowledge of Walt Disney World history, or see how well you pay attention to the details in what you see, hear, remember, maybe have even tasted. And if you think you know the answer, you can enter for a chance to win a Disney Prize package. And this week's trivia contest is once again brought to you by you. And since my very first show back in 2005, it has always been by, for, with, and about you. And you're not a fan, you're a friend. You're not a listener, you're part of the WDW Radio family. But for as little as $1 per month, you can also help keep the show and the magic alive and enjoy some cool exclusive rewards. There's scavenger hunts, group video calls, access to our private community, and depending on your level, you can also get surprise care packages curated just for you. Plus, your support helps our Dream Team project, which sends children with life-threatening illnesses to Walt Disney World through Make-A-Wish, and thanks to the generosity of people like you, we've raised more than $500,000 for Make-A-Wish. And I'm so grateful for you and your love and support and time and friendship and help. I love being able to give back to you each and every month. I want to thank some new and longtime members of the Nation family, including Katie Cope, Stephanie King, Daniel Roberts, Richard Pineda, and Carrie McCullough. And if you'd like to join them and find out how you can be part of the Nation family, you can visit wdwradio.com/support. Now, before we get to this week's question, we're going to go back, review last week's, and select our winner. Last week, we ventured virtually to Disney's Hollywood Studios, and your question was to tell me, what attraction did Toy Story Midway Mania replace over at Disney's Hollywood Studios? Do you remember? Did you enter and get this one correct? Because the attraction that Toy Story Midway Mania replaced was Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Play It, the interactive game show based on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire that opened at what was then the Disney MGM Studios on April 7th, 2001. I never made it to the hot seat. I'm still a little bit sad about that, but in this simulated version of the TV show, everyone in the audience played with a keypad in front of them, and then contestants were selected to play for actual points and real prizes, like hats, shirts, pins, lanyards, Disney cruises. And for the most part, it was pretty accurate. There was no Regis Philbin, and there was no phone a friend and said you phoned a stranger, where when you used the phone a stranger, a cast member who was outside the attraction standing by a phone would literally provide assistance or pull over a random guest to try and help you during the game. This attraction closed in August of 2006 and was replaced by Toy Story Midway Mania, which opened on May 31st, 2008. So you still get to play a game, but you don't get anything other than a digital prize and possibly a rotator cuff strain. But I took all the correct entries, randomly selected one. Last week you were playing for the WDW Radio 3D keychain, the stickers, the pin, and a mystery prize. And last week's winner, randomly selected, is Danny Heinz. So Danny, congratulations. You didn't win a cruise, but you do get the WDW Radio prize package, which I will send out to you right away. And if you played last week and didn't win, that's okay, because here's your next chance to enter in this week's Walt Disney World Trivia Challenge. So as long as we're talking about D23, let's continue about D23, because the D23 Expo, the Ultimate Disney Fan event, has taken place every other year since the first one in Anaheim in 2009. But that's not the only D23 Expo event, as there have been others outside the US. Where was the first ever international D23 Expo event held? You have until Sunday, July 21st at 11:59 p.m. Eastern to go to WDWRadio.com, click on this week's podcast, use the form there, and once again, you're going to play for the keychain, the stickers, the pin, and another mystery prize. So good luck and have fun. That's going to do it for this week's show. I hope you enjoyed our look at what we hope and wish for to come at D23. A little bit of armchair imagineering, a little bit of dreaming, but a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed it as well. And I want to know from you, what's the one thing you're hoping to hear at this year's D23, the Ultimate Disney Fan event? Let me know by being part of the community and conversation over in the clubhouse at wdwradio.com/clubhouse. Talk about this week's show, anything you want in the Disney, Marvel, or Star Wars universe, or leave a voicemail. I'll play it on the show at 407-900-9391. That's 407-900-WDW1. Don't forget to join me this and every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for WDW Radio Live, where you can watch and chat on our Facebook page or on the Clubhouse or over at youtube.com/WDW Radio. And don't forget that in addition to connecting with you online, I still believe that nothing beats a handshake and a hug. Our next meet of the month is most likely going to be Sunday, July 28th, but stay tuned to the events page both on Facebook and at WDWRadio.com/events for the exact time and location, as well as our other events, including our cruise on the Disney Magic out of Fort Lauderdale to Lookout Key at Lighthouse Point and Castaway Key. It is a Halloween on the High Seas cruise this October. We're also going to be on the Treasure in February and still have a little bit of room available for our Adventures by Disney to Japan in May, to Disneyland and Southern California this summer, and our Adventures by Disney river cruise on the Seine, visit to Paris, and of course an optional couple of days in Disneyland Paris. Again, you can find out more, get a free no obligation quote from our friends over at Mousefan Travel by going to WDWRadio.com and clicking on the events tab there. Speaking of Mousefan Travel, no matter where you're going, whether you are adventuring and cruising with us, traveling to a Disney destination, or anywhere on this planet, you can visit our friends over at mousefantravel.com so they can help you with the planning so you can focus on the memories. They offer fee-free vacation planning services for more than 20 years. They have been my partner. It's who I recommend because it's who I trust for 17 plus years. And it's not because it's just about the prices, but it's really about the people. Visit mousefantravel.com for more information and, like I said, a free, no obligation quote. And finally, most importantly, thank you, thank you, thank you. None of this happens without you. And if you like the show, and I hope that you do, all I ask is that you please help spread the word, tell a friend, share a link to this or your favorite episode on social, and if you can, take just a couple of seconds to rate and review the show over on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I want to thank some recent reviewers like Princess NP, who says, Lou is a household name. Thank you. And a friend through the WDW Radio Clubhouse. My girls and I love to follow him and listen to the podcast regularly. He's so knowledgeable, personable, and really brings Disney to life, even when we can't be there. Thank you, Lou, from the Lee Girls. Lee Girls, thank you so much. I would not be able to do this and share this thing that I love so much if it weren't for you. And always remember to choose the good, even when it's easier not to. I promise it'll make you happier and hopefully inspire others with a positive ripple effect. Have an amazing day today and an even better tomorrow. I love and appreciate you. So until next time, see you.
Up here in Ohio, and I just wanted to say I love the show, and I just finished the one on iconic sounds from Walt Disney World, and had a lot of fun thinking about all some of the ones I knew and some of the ones I didn't know, and we'll listen for next time. My favorite sound has got to be the clock in Small World at the quarter of an hour when it goes off, the tick-tock and all of the little sounds that go along with that. And then also one that you mentioned, which is that Star Tours chime. Just two of my favorites, always takes me back. Thanks so much for the show, and hope to see you sometime down at the park.
Good morning, Lou. You're not crazy. Yes, I remember it too. Maybe a little bit late, just listening to the podcast now, driving to work. But yes, I do remember the chunk, 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 chunk as it went down the line to close all the doors when we're leaving our resort or the TTC heading to the parks. Have a great day, and thanks for your podcast.